And we are live. I'm joined here with Steve Moneypenny for USPSA president. And we're going to talk to Steve this evening about his aspirations, his dreams and schemes and visions for the organization. So, Steve, why don't you introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, my name is Steve Moneypenny. I'm a presidential candidate for the USPSA election that's happening right now. And I'm from the middle of West Virginia. I have about 20 years in shooting. For a long time, I kept seeing things that I wanted to see done differently. And I think this is going to be the opportunity to try to get them done differently.
Okay. Well, you preempted kind of my first question, which I had, which is what makes you so invested in becoming USPSA president? So if you could expand on that a little bit.
So I've started competing when I was 18, and pretty much I've been through every president since 2000, which includes Mike Voigt, Phil Strader, Mike Foley, and all of that. I could see little things that I really wanted to see better. And in that, I also became a firearms instructor, and I've since opened up my own gun shop. So I see this from a lot of different ways. Mainly, the way I look at it is the more people we have shooting, I think the better the world's going to be. I was sitting around one night complaining about stuff on my range, and I have one steadfast rule on the range. If you can fix it, don't come to me complaining about it, just fix it. So some of my close friends said, well, maybe you should fix this. And I looked and I'm like, yeah, right. Like, I'm going to run for president. And then like 2 days later, Mike Foley is removed from office. So I'm like, oh no.
Ask and you shall receive.
Yeah. Huh? And so some of my buddies called me up and says, hey, you going to run? And I had a chat with my fiance and my parents, and everybody was, supportive of it. So I decided to run. What I think I can do and why I'm so invested in it. I've served at just about every level that we have. I've not been a major match director, but I've been an assistant match director for a couple of them. I see the little things that can be done that can make nationals feel like a major event. I feel that by doing that, by reaching out to local clubs, we can grow this sport on a grassroots level and elevate it to a level that it should be. I mean, I've sit here and watched axe throwing go from something only a bunch of crazy hillbillies did with a stump in their backyard to a national level sport with, multi-million dollars, people spending $500-$600. I actually have some shooting students that their axe cost more than their carry gun. So there's a want out there for people to do this sport. And I feel that we can, between the three sports that we're running right now, I think we can grow by leaps and bounds. And that's going to bring a better awareness of the firearms that we have to the industry. It's going to normalize the AR-15, and of course, semi-automatic pistols, high-capacity magazines. It normalizes that type of thing the more people we get into it. So I just think it's going to make basically society a better place by making the shooting sports larger.
It's a noble aspiration. I certainly support it. How much of a time commitment do you see the role of president taking, and what, if anything, would prevent you from providing that level of commitment?
Well, getting hit by a bus, that's about it. So right now I work for the county. I make around $33,000 a year. It doesn't require any travel. I will be giving that up in the future, whether that's phased out over the next 18 months, which it would be insane for me to give up a job, even though it does pay less with benefits and with a lot of vacation, every paid holiday off. That amount of time is going to allow, and that time that I can take away from that is going to allow me to get started as president. We'll see how fast I exhaust that time and how much that I enjoy the presidency, which I'm sure it's going to be a lot. But if it comes to the point that I have to leave with less time, I have already talked to my superiors about that and how to work on it. I plan to become a full-time president in the not too distant future. So at that point, I'm only limited by the time that the Lord gives us in a day, I guess you'd say.
Okay.
I'm also very good at segregating tasks and compartmentalizing, and then finding I don't want to say someone else to do them, because not necessarily for the presidential duties, but in a way to separate those tasks out and make so that they are done in their own timely manner. For instance, planning for the next following year's nationals, there are certain time frames that things have to be done in. You can schedule those as to what time frame they need to be done, because you have to deal with budgets for your sponsors, budgets for the match itself, and everyone else's schedule to be able to get there.
I mean, a big part of being a leader is leading through others. So I think there's certainly something to be said for identifying what you can do and figuring out what other people can do. But a lot of being what a president is being sort of influential and helping others kind of catch your vision for what's going on. So, I mean, do you consider yourself an influential person?
I do. And sometimes the craziest things are what get you into certain things. When I was in college, I started off with a multi-level marketing company. It was called Quick Start at the time. Basically, it's Amway.
I just really appreciate how you're toting working for a MLM. It's like, no, it's a positive. Just stick it out and we'll get there.
So, obviously, I did not make much money at this, okay? Or I would be doing it now, right? And pimping that instead of myself as president. But the thing to it is it taught me a massive amount about leadership. From the time that I was in high school, I learned that you have two choices. You can either follow someone or you can lead people yourself. And most of the time I felt that I could do the leadership job better than the other person could that we will be following. And by doing that in college, it really got me into reading a lot of leadership books. And as that followed me kind of through life, they had like book of the month clubs and stuff like that. So it got me really reading a lot to learn for personal growth. Of course, we read a lot in college because we have to. But, then you put down the textbook and start reading something like Phil Jackson's book or Good to Great, or trying to think of some of the other books. I've read so many of them. It's insane. Right now, I'm actually I do audiobooks most of the time, because I'm traveling to matches. So I just finished up Can't Hurt Me by Walton Goggins and
David Goggins. Yeah.
David Goggins. There we go.
Yeah.
That's an amazing book. And
makes you feel real bad about yourself. You're like, I'm a gigantic waste of time. This guy is the real deal.
I'm the guy that wants to lose weight, and he lost 100 and some plus pounds
in 6 months.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. What he did to his health, though, I don't know.
Yeah.
Very strong-minded individual.
For sure.
That type of leadership, and I feel that I also tend to attract like-minded people. I've spoken with a lot of folks in Steel Challenge and Multi-Gun that are ready to step up to leadership roles. One of the things that I have promised to do is create committees, a number of committees. First thing is for a separate committee for Multi-Gun. Now, USPSA beat me to this from the Steel Challenge. They have a Steel Challenge committee already. Those guys are doing an amazing job, and I look forward to serving with them and helping to expand that. But a multi-gun committee, and then a committee for bringing women into the shooting sport. I've already spoke to 3 or 4 ladies about that. I'm not going to out who they are, so nobody pressures them. But there are ladies that are already out there doing amazing things for the shooting sports, and to get them to work with USPSA again, some of them again, because we did have a Women of USPSA program at one point, and each one of those having their separate committee with those experts there and me to help them out wherever they need it. So I feel that my influence is much greater than my own, so to speak.
Fair enough. So if I'm summarizing your response, it sounds like you recognize other people's ability to be influential in areas that you cannot, but in an administrative capacity, you feel pretty good about it.
Yes.
Okay. How would you consider your vision? How's your crystal ball these days? I think that a lot of what USPSA suffers from is a lack of vision, because we're so hyper-focused on what are the small things that are wrong with the sport. A lot of it has come in the fact of just crazy rule changes and being kind of very inwardly focused rather than let's make sure the bills are paid. Let's focus on what we can
Right.
do with this thing. So how's your vision?
I think it's pretty good. First of all, I like to say my vision is in a positive way, because there are a lot of things wrong with this sport. We could sit here for the next 2 hours and talk about the little things that we don't like about USPSA, the little things that it's done wrong in the past. But the bottom line is a lot of those need fixed, and focusing on the solution, not the problem. We need a good 5 and 10 year plan. An expectation of a realistic expectation of where the ammunition prices are going to be going, where we're going to be putting our money as our investments, because the stock market has not treated us well. That's the biggest reason we are currently in a budget deficit. Understanding that we will have to raise membership dues in the future, but being able to only raise them incrementally where we have to, and by first cutting as much as we can of excess to maintain the budget we have. I feel that a person has to be a good servant and steward of the membership's money, first and foremost. As for the growth of the sport, we have to be realistic and methodical about how we're going to help to grow that sport. And when I say that sport, I look at kind of like a 3-legged stool. USPSA is in one side, 3-gun is in another, or multi-gun, however you want to put that, and then the third being Steel Challenge. And each one of those is going to require its own separated effort. And there's a lot of folks that are willing to help with that. So coordinating that and getting everyone to the same page of where we want that to be. As for getting rid of the little problems that we have right now, I think the first thing we need to do is be open and honest about everything. The board has taken steps in the very recent future. That they said, hey, look, we're going to have a budget deficit. Instead of trying to hide it and cover it up, they put out there what this is. Jake Martins was recently on a podcast, the Steel Target Paint podcast, and he covered exactly where all the money went for the World Speed Shooting Championship, which it was around $30,000 in the hole. So he explained where that money went and the reasons behind it. So this transparency, so that people know, hey, this is what we're going to do to fix it. Give us any suggestions you may have. These are the suggestions we've compiled, and this is the answer that we found. This is what we're going to do, and then do it. If we can do that, people aren't going to be acting like we're some secret society that's only interested in our own good. Because the truth is, whether or not you like what the board's done or not, they've done what they individually feel is best for the sport. Because if they didn't feel it was best for the sport and they did it, they could be quickly, 1, removed, and 2, it's illegal, because that's what you signed the oath to do.
Fair enough. So with kind of your vision, the influence, and sort of the stuff that we talked about just a moment ago, but as far as your priorities as a president, like how will you decide what your initiatives are? Like, is it Steve has got the data, so Steve makes the decision? Is it pulling the members? How are you going to come up with a list of what your priorities end up being?
Well, the first biggest list of the priorities are what are required of the job in the bylaws. That's getting nationals set up and making sure our meetings are set up with correct agendas. That is the job of the president. A lot of this other stuff is tasks that I can take on.
It's a pretty low bar to step over, though. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, organizing a match is not a big, I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's not that hard, and it's not a full-time thing.
Well, here's the thing. We're required to have a nationals. That's multi-gun nationals. We have to have there will be a world speed shoot in 2023. 2024 has yet to be determined. The multi-gun nationals for 2023 has not been determined. There's a lot that really goes into this. We're looking at this year, we're doing 7 national championships. Yes, we do have a director of media and events, but that a lot of the tasks and duties that are assigned in the bylaws are also assigned to other people, I'm finding out. And if you read what is put
When
out there.
talking to Phil Strader, he said that the DME basically was what the president was when he was involved.
Yes. So a lot of that, I don't want to say I want to take back, but it is the duty that I'm supposed to be doing. I will work with whoever DME is at the time, which hopefully it will continue to be Jake till we get things set in, but we never know. There's a lot of people out there headhunting for a lot of jobs right now because there's a great shortage. But I'm going to work with whoever I can, learn as many of the jobs as I can. Remember, this first job is 18 months.
Sure.
So that's going to be the first thing, is what has to be done, what has to get done. That's got to be done first. After that, I have a long list of stuff. And basically, I don't want to say it's like putting out fires, but it's going to be whatever I can work on the most to get the most amount of result from that effort.
Okay, so it's a list of things that you're already aware of presently. It's not like poll the membership. I know Hopkins, a big part of his platform was he polled the membership, and all that kind of stuff.
He said that a lot. I've actually created 2 polls already. Those 2 polls, I had about 150 to 180 people that responded to them. One of them actually had, I think, 140. But anyway, point being, they weren't a good enough. Trying to figure out the word I'm looking for. A good enough section to base the results on. So one of the biggest things was, it seems like a lot of people want the World Speed Shoot moved. Now, it did move 1 week forward, and I'm hoping that's going to help with a lot of our students and their finals week and stuff like that. But then we get caught to graduation. It seems, based upon the poll that I've done so far, and I will get further data to this, is that most people would like to see it more towards the later part of summer to early fall, which of course limits where we're having it, but where we're having it right now, that would work fine for it. So I do want to create some polls based upon the data that I've received and the way I think it's going to go. But I want to be able to back up the decisions of myself and the board, because right now the board, anybody can say anything they want. Well, everybody I talked to told me the sky is blue, and it might be nighttime outside. It doesn't, they don't have a big enough consensus of that area. So I've been told that they're working on some of that already in USPSA, which I hope that they are. And if they are, we'll see what resources we can help put toward that. Basically, that still kind of goes right into the same thing of, I think Nationals needs to be a big event. It's going to require a lot more planning and time than what it currently does, I believe, because there's only so many ways you can stretch one guy.
Sure.
And I think that extra work needs to be put into Nationals to make it a big event. I know that whenever I got there, the first Nationals I ever went to inspired me to shoot better and go to more and do better at Nationals. The same thing with the first area match. And we have got some amazing area matches out there right now. So each one of those matches kind of builds a level of competition that will help bring other people to that level, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And at the same time, I want to be working on getting basically information packets, and there are people that have completely volunteered to help rewrite the entire club program manual, which I didn't get one when I opened my club. I think it was 16 or 17 that I opened my USPSA club.
Yeah, I don't think we got one either. We opened one, I think 17, maybe 18.
I can send you an antique copy. I think from 11 or 12. But yeah, getting that updated, just some little things to do to help get your match out there. A lot of people are doing a great job. There are match directors that do not need a lick of help. I actually had one of them tell me, so what can you do to help me? I'm already sold out in 20 minutes when I open. Well, obviously you don't need much help, do you?
Right.
That has a lot to do with the area. That guy could come here and put on the same match, and he just wouldn't have the enough
Sure
on those guns to go to the matches. So there's places that don't need help, but there are small places that really could use a little bit of help just to stay open. So that information and getting it out there to them as quickly as possible. And a lot of it, I've already got portions of it compiled. I haven't done it yet because I don't really want to start using USPSA's logo without the permission. And if I lose this terribly, I will do it without the USPSA logos and stuff like that on it, just so people can put in their clubs, their own club logos and stuff like that. So a lot of it's going to be forthcoming, whether or not I have president before or after my name or not.
So talk to me about how you're going to build support for the initiatives that you do decide to champion. I mean, obviously doing nationals is a pretty easy one to get support for, since it's the core competency of the job. But other things that you decide to tackle, how can you help others see your vision on that?
Pretty much just ask. I've had more people send me messages volunteering to do things than I ever thought would be possible. I thought it was going to be hard to get, people to volunteer for committees. And now I'm looking at things going, holy crap, I'm going to have to really, water this down and to do this. I have a pretty good network of folks already in my cell phone, so to speak. And I also plan to attend a lot of local and club matches just to get the word out about me running for president, and to see for myself what I think people need and what the sport is doing. I know Mike Foley was really good about that, hey, showing up to a club match in the middle of nowhere, and nobody there really knew who he was. But before the match was over, somebody Googled him and figured it out probably. But I've heard a couple of funny stories about that. So just building in-person relationships with these people, someone that they know can trust, that will give them the credit for what they do and help empower them to do it.
Okay. And this is kind of I feel like there's two different boats that people fall into of help USPSA be all that it can be, or make it like it was 5-10 years ago, whatever it was. So would you say that your main goal is to restore USPSA to what it was, or help USPSA become what it could be?
I have a kind of a tricky answer to that question.
Okay, let's go.
Basically, I want to use the vision of what it was and what it did to help form the future of USPSA. There are a lot of things that were great about some of the early matches that I competed in, some of the things that were done. But I think, things change. We're not talking about something that's stagnant. The firearms industry has changed so much in the last 5 to 7 years that if we don't stay ahead of it and try to be the best that we can be, we're going to end up being behind. And trying to make it back exactly like it was, I think that cat's completely out of the bag on that one. There's no way of going back, only to move forward.
Well, it's a question of scale as well. Like, what USPSA was 10 years ago is not what USPSA can be now, because USPSA is much, much bigger than it was 10 years ago.
We're more than double the size of what it was 10 years ago.
For sure.
Getting close to 3 times.
Gotcha.
And we have 12 million new gun owners. It won't take a whole lot of them to discover our sports before we get a lot bigger. So that's one of the things we have to kind of prepare for that growth. One of the educational things is, what you need to do to open a club. I've actually had 2 or 3 people going, I'm sure it's such a pain to open a club. I can't wait to hear. I'm like, and if you guys started a club, it's not that hard. It's hard to do well, but to just get started.
To do the paperwork, it's not a big challenge.
No, exactly. And even creating your own section is not terribly difficult. There's plenty of them out there that can be copied. And when I say copied, I mean used for guidelines, no plagiarism. But the other thing is, there are so many people out there willing to help. All we have to do is, have that contact info and have them, if you ask, you'll probably get more help than you wanted at times. There'll be a whole lot of information thrown to you. Got it.
So this is kind of a question on how you view the USPSA president position. So do you view the position of the president to serve at the will of the people, or to provide leadership to help USPSA prosper, realizing that the general membership doesn't have access to all the facts and data?
I think that's going to be a very delicate balance. You're very good at writing tricky questions, by the way.
That's what I do, baby. That's what I do.
So I think what I have to do is provide leadership on what I feel that the membership wants. It's obvious, we can't. I mean, we're going to publish our budget and do that stuff. We can't. Hypothetically, I'm setting up nationals. I can't release what the bottom line that we're going to be paying a range is and all the little tiny details. But I have to do what I feel that most of our membership will support and what is going to be best for us. And most of the time, the membership is going to line up perfectly with, that type of support. I do want to use polls for some of that. I'm not going to say I'm going to poll them on everything, like, what color should the banners be and all that kind of thing. But one of the polls that I've already done showed that about 70% or so of the people want more than one national championship. But of those, most of them are only going to shoot one of them. So, so if they're only going to shoot one versus two, and it seems like the best breakdown has been high cap, low cap. So, with that said, we also have to do a lot of, legwork into determining the other things that people would want. Time of the year, what ranges are available, what dates are available. As we get closer, I know that the caterers this year, Southern Barbecue, they did classic or multi-gun nationals, area 6, they're doing area 8. Most of those matches already have the dates for 2023 scheduled. So it's also important that we don't allow our national championships to step on the toes of our area championships and other stuff like that to really hurt their attendance. So to fully answer it, I'm not going to go against the will of the people being the membership, but I fully intend to follow their will as much as I can. And even if I can't give them all the information, I'll give them what I can and then find out when we can share the rest of the information.
Fair enough. This one's a little more straight down the middle, so you can you get ready. Here it comes. What is the single biggest issue you see facing USPSA, and what do you plan on doing about it if elected president?
I feel the biggest issue is our transparency right now. And I don't feel that it's actual transparency. I believe it's the trust of the membership. I feel that the membership has lost, and this doesn't mean all the membership. I'm just saying the most vocal part of the membership have lost faith in the board doing what is best for them and best for the sport and what they agree with. So that's what I hope transparency will bring back the faith that the board is doing the absolute best that they can and is all in the correct line of what it should be. Part of this is a lot of leadership. Our minutes being much more detailed.
The minutes are terrible, by the way. I mean, I know that. You can read the minutes. There's nothing in there.
It's hearsay, basically. This details what minutes are supposed to be. I don't know if might be too much light here.
Robert's Rules of Order, yeah.
12th edition. I had the 11th, and it was all marked up and all that stuff, and then I couldn't find it. Panicked and ordered this one off Amazon, and at least now I have the newest edition. I didn't see a whole lot of changes, but yeah, the minutes need to be as detailed as possible. There's no reason it can't be. In today's world, it's already videotaped or audio taped anyway. I mean, most of our minutes are Zoom minutes, and you know how that works. It's
right.
Same way our podcast does right now. We click save at the end, and even if you can't type 90 words per minute, you can listen to what was said and type it out. The president does appoint an executive secretary. I believe that's the title of the position. And sometimes that's a member, one of the employees, or it can be one of the other members of the board of directors. I don't have a person in mind for that right now. It used to be our DFO, or director of finance, or we'll just call him Mr. Nash. But I'm not sure who's actually doing that job right now, so I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. They're just doing, what they're told and what they've been doing all along. I just want to make it. I'm a secretary of 2 organizations right now, and If I did not detail those minutes, the state of West Virginia would be telling me that I was not allowed to be the secretary anymore. One of them is the advisory board for the 911 center, and the other is the local emergency planning committee, which operates grant money, and my minutes get put in a book and sent to the state of West Virginia for audit annually. So I have a pretty good grasp of what needs to be able to be put in minutes to get the point across of what's happening.
Okay. So, just playing a bit of devil's advocate, transparency, it seems like another way to spin that would simply be communication. USPSA is not very good at telling its side of the story. It basically allows the podcasting set to say whatever it's going to say about it and put whatever spin they care to put on it.
Yes.
They're trying to get out there with their own podcast, but at the same time, it's really tough to make engaging media, and it is a learned skill. And if you take a bunch of novices and throw them at it, they're not going to make particularly engaging media, which so far they hadn't quite figured out the formula. So would you say it's more transparency, or would you say it's more communication?
I'm going to go with both on that one. First of all, you have to communicate what you're doing. And if you correctly communicate, then you will be transparent. Because right now, let's just go back and talk about the board, the changes that the board made to our bylaws. Most of those changes had very little to do with anything that's going to affect us. Now, some of those had a good bit to do it, but when did they tell us what the changes meant? After they'd voted on them. That's bad. That's not good communication. That allows me as a member, that allows me to get angry about what they're doing, wonder what I'm seeing, and creates a whole ton of emotion. And the podcasters out there and the other media junkies, the people that are good at making media, could twist and spin that to any way they wanted. And I'm not even going to get into some of the spins of it that I heard. But the bottom line was, if they would go line item by line item, and I did send an email asking for this. If they would have voted on those one by one, I think a couple of them would have changed, but not really. Not really the whole document. And explain each one of them and what they're doing. Not explain why they're doing it after you've done it, but put it up front, let people discuss it, and that communication makes it transparent. So, communicate what you're going to do before you do it, I think, is the biggest takeaway I have from that.
Fair enough.
If people don't like it, they'll scream, and then you can not do it or explain why you're going to do it anyway. Because there are some things that have to be done anyway.
Sure.
And the bylaws have not been correctly updated in many years.
That's an excellent segue into my next question. USPSA is an organization that was basically built in the 70s, 80s. Mm-hmm. And what is the biggest battle with the modern age that you see USPSA needing to address?
I think right now, our biggest battle is keeping up with the technology trends. I know one of Matt's campaign promises was that he was going to live stream all the meetings. I can't make that promise because I have 8 people that vote that could shut that down in a blink of an eye. I don't know how they feel about it. I also feel that a lot of meetings that are live streamed could be a really bad thing for us. And I say that as a bad thing. We just talked about quality podcasts. How would you like to join in? Hi, welcome to this meeting.
Nope. It's like watching Nationals now, the way they live stream Nationals. It's about as interesting as live streaming a board meeting.
Then we do roll call. And then I say, can I get a motion to go into executive session, discuss employee issues?
The screen goes black. Yeah.
Boom. Now you sit there for 20 minutes.
Right.
No, I'm not going to do that kind of thing. If we do manage to do it, I'd like to record it and play it not necessarily live. But if we have anything like that, we can start it live and then, show the recording later and, put tabs in it. This is what happened here. This is what happened here. This is what happened here for the person who wants to sit there and listen to it, go for it. If you want to listen to all of us down there and talk about our kids' soccer games and stuff like, oh, that's, as a joke, that's one of the things that I want to remove from a lot of the board meetings is idle chatter and stuff like that. We have a joke with the state organizations is there's pre-meeting, in the meeting, and after the meeting. Let's keep all those separate, because if you want to talk about your kid's soccer game or the football game yesterday, we can talk about that before the meeting. If you don't get done with it, you can talk about it after the meeting, but let's not put it in the minutes. Because I did that to a couple of guys when they wanted to keep doing it. I just sit there and just kept typing, and they get out, there's like 7 pages of minutes. I'm like, you guys really should call, make a specific time when you end the meeting, because they're like, so after that, I've never had a problem getting a minute to adjourn. So keeping up with technology is one huge thing. That's the hardest problem. And the way some of the things were written back then, and we're going to have to take a look at in the future, is that the way we're chartered as USPSA can't really own a lot of things like vehicles, trailers, stuff like that. It's just not in our possibility as a 501c3. Now, I do know that other 501c3s do own these, and there isn't a problem with it. So I think there's a lot of little things that need to be looked at, and possibly even the separation of a media company, because we've been really stepping kind of deeply into that territory that we either partner with or that may be a wholly owned subsidiary. But keeping up with the times, I think, is the hardest part. Nothing against any of our board members, but the tech savviness of people to reach out and be a part of every conversation, or feel that they are a part of every conversation, is something I think that the voters are really pushing for right now. And I shouldn't say just the voters. There's a very vocal group that are pushing for that. For instance, if you try to follow a couple of these guys, and I'll out my area director, Rick Steele, because I think Rick's a good guy. I think he's a very intelligent man and a very hard worker. Rick doesn't do social media. He isn't going to play with online drama. Not going to happen. If you don't want him for area director, don't. He's actually said he's retiring after the next one. But if you don't want him for area director, vote for somebody else. There's only so much time in a day, and he is not willing to spend it all online playing with stuff. He did. Those are my words, not his. But I know how it worked when my parents started getting on Facebook. This person just said I won money. I'm like, you need to stop that. You're not going to win any money on Facebook, Mom. This person says they know me. I'm like, they don't know you, because you don't know them. They don't know you. Forget it. So just making that something that we can do, and maybe even being sure that each area's online presence and media presence has its own ability and outreach. Because right now there's no consistency from area to area. I know that Area 2 has a Zoom meeting with all of his section coordinators on certain scheduled events. I'm pretty sure that, I know that Area 5 doesn't, because I'm not exactly a section coordinator, but I know the section coordinator well enough. That's not happening in Area 5 or Area 8. They do have some meetings and talk about things, but each area is being ran very differently right now. So having a consistent way that things are available to all of our area directors, and making sure that our message is well disseminated.
Okay. So we'll hit on a couple of them moving quickly. Turnover is a big problem in USPSA right now. Talk to me about how you think you can help reduce it.
The first thing we need to do is to help foster a volunteering, and this is also one of my competitors' thing. I think E-Man is, you want to foster a volunteering mindset when people come into this sport. So right now, a handful of people set up. Sometimes people ask them, etc. In other sports, such as autocross, you have to officiate. That is part of the job. You have to go, if you want to drive the course, you're going to have to go stand on the corner with a cone. That's how the sport is expected. Nobody questions, why do I have to do that? They just do it. So by helping to create standards and practices that get people more involved and keep people more involved, people don't stop doing something because they dislike it suddenly. They either feel that they can't grow anymore, or they feel that it's not taking them anywhere. And those are very similar, but like they either feel that they can't get better as a shooter, or that they feel that they're just spinning their wheels, going to matches and hanging out with their friends. And something else comes along that takes up that time. So to help combat the turnover, if we can do things to retain members, if you're more vested in something, if you routinely volunteer and stuff like that, it seems like those folks are the ones that continue to stay in the sport. The guys that are range officers now are some of the same people that I remember shooting with 10 and 15 years ago. And they're new range officers, a lot of them. They didn't just become an RO then, and they've just been a professional ROs ever since. But the more they can get brought into the sport, it seems like the longer that they stay. There's going to be a turnover. I've read about it, looked at it in other sports to see how they combat it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Just follow what some other folks have done. And the volunteering part is something that I stole. I think it was from golf. There's other methods of, bringing people in that they feel, even if they can't volunteer so much into the sport, if there's that touch point between them and their friends that keeps them talking about that, thinking about that, and doing that. If we can have more matches so that they don't start bowling on Saturday, the third Saturday, and then the next thing you know, they're doing the third and the fifth Saturday and all that type of thing. Sometimes 3 or 4 matches in an area keep people in that area shooting a lot longer than what just one will.
Got it. Okay. So next question is, how do you plan on finding new USPSA members to replace turnover or potentially grow it?
So right now we have and again, we have to kind of be careful how we do this, the way we're set up. But I can remember a time that when certain guns are sold, they have a flyer that goes in with those firearms. And Palmetto State Armory, which is logos above my head, Federal already puts our logo on the back of pretty much every Syntec box. CCI has one of the official ammunitions of Steel Challenge, and the Steel Challenge logo is on the front of that. And I think what we need to, everything like that that's doing that, we need a QR code so that people can understand what Steel Challenge, what is Steel Challenge. You're not going to click a box, but you can scan it with your phone. Get flyers out with every, if right now we have our biggest gun companies are supporting us: CZ, SIG, Palmetto State Armory, Ruger just sponsored, it will be this weekend's Classic Nationals, sponsored by Ruger. If we could, part of their agreement, get a simple postcard in with your thing, says join the NRA, this is USPSA, this is Steel Challenge, on one side or the other. I think that's going to bring the awareness of the sport up. One of the questions I ask just about everybody I meet or start having a conversation with is, so how did you find USPSA, or how did you find Steel Challenge? And some of them, it was walking into a gun shop and seeing something. We used to have a partner program where USPSA would put your name on their website, and then we'd send you some flyers and information packages to set in your gun shop. I want to bring something like that back. And what gun shop owner doesn't want their members shooting USPSA? I mean, we shoot more ammo than anybody.
Yeah, for sure.
I know my ammo consumption like quadrupled whenever I figured out what USPSA was.
Oh, easily.
I was the guy that shot a box a weekend. And in my peak, I was shooting 250 rounds a day. That's a very drastic change.
Yeah, for sure. This is probably different economic times as well.
Yeah, that was about 2006 and 2007. And I was reloading at that point. But the thing was, even though I ordered the majority of my components, I I would still walk in, and to this day, I'm a dealer, and I'm an '06 FFL. I can order stuff, but I walk into a gun shop and they have primers there. Well, if I order primers for my shop, usually there's a 1 or 2 or 3 limit. I can't order 5,000. If I just order those to either resell or for me to have personally, I got to pay a hazmat fee. So it's cheaper for me to pay like 85 or 90 bucks to buy that 1,000 primers at Bridgeport Equipment or Cabela's or wherever I'm at than what it is to order it from Brownells or Midway or whoever else.
Got it. So how do you see USPSA's rule set fitting into the IPSC rule set, acknowledging that the U.S. is the largest consumer handgun market in the world and gear trends largely have started developing here?
Well, that's a rather tricky one because there are a lot of changes that IPSC hasn't made that they may be making that the rule books still don't have yet. I think that the USPSA in a lot of places needs to lead a little bit with that, and I think we greatly have led with that. Carry optics and PCC are something that we started first. It was here first. Now everybody's got it. IDPA's got it. IPSC's got two carry optics divisions. It's something that while we lead, I think we still need to be able to keep the division close enough so that if people want to compete in IPSC, it's not a completely different sport. I feel that a lot of USPSA has a different flavor than what IPSC does right now. But I also feel it's important that we educate people on what the difference in that flavor is and that it is still available. Like if you decide you want to take your club and you want to run an IPSC match with all IPSC classifiers, you are welcome to do that under USPSA's current rule set. You are welcome to run an IPSC style match. So I feel a lot of that isn't necessarily something that needs to be done on a policy level, but it needs to be just know that people can do it. For instances, if you, like I do this at my range, I have a group of veterans that shoot with me. Just because it's not a category in our rule book doesn't mean I can't, as a match director, choose to honor that. So I do a high veterans award because there's a half a dozen of the guys that are all veterans and they compete against each other. No offense to them. They're probably not going to win high overall. They've got a lot of other things in their life that they're doing, but they'll really heckle each other and push each other around a lot to do that. They'll buy more gear to win that award.
Fair enough. Okay. That's a reasonable enough answer. But given the gift of hindsight, was the flashlight rule and appendix rule all that bad?
Ooh. First of all, I like the rule. I really hated how they went about it. I think that goes back to the communication transparency portion. Was it that bad? I don't think so. I think it was a capstone to a whole bunch of other crazy crap that went on.
I'll just go on the record right now and say that most of the podcasting set was completely wrong with their take on it, on what they said was going to happen and what happened with it, and none of that happened. And there are people who are showing up to matches as a result of introducing appendix and flashlights.
So I'm going to hit the flashlight part first. I've been carrying a flashlight on my gun for many, many years. I always had to take it off to compete. I'll be shooting limited. My rig's not in this room. I'll be shooting limited nationals with a flashlight on my gun this week. I shot the World Speeds match with a flashlight on my gun. Do I feel it offers me any benefit at all? No, absolutely not. I'm shooting a P320 X5, not the tungsten module, so it's not a Legion. I like the gun. I like the way it feels. I'm starting to like the fact that the flashlight's still always on the gun. I don't have to take it off every time I go to a match. I can have holsters, like 4 or 5 of them, and just take the same flashlight. And it doesn't matter whether my gun's long, short, medium, how it's set up, because the 320 is way more modular than it should be, I think. I have a 4-inch slide. It fits right in the holster for the 5-inch gun it doesn't matter. So I think that needed to be done. I just feel that we should have went a little bit carefully about the brass frame weights and stuff like that. As it's currently turning out, I'm not seeing tons of them. Like you said, everybody's like, well, everybody's going to have a flashlight, and that's the only way you're going to compete, and it hasn't happened.
Balance. I was aware when they passed the rule that balance was way more important than people realized.
Yes.
And everybody all at once kind of figured out like, oh, well, if you make it really dust cover heavy, then it doesn't return to zero like it should.
Yeah. And some of us figured that out ahead of time. Yeah. Next thing you know, you go bang hole here, bang hole here. Now, wait a minute. It goes up, will come down. So it's not that big of a deal. I think with the appendix carry, it scares me a little bit because we've thrown everybody out for sweeping for so long, and we still do. Now to holster up, we have to sweep ourselves in a very important area. It creates a level of disaster that wasn't there before. So I think that's part of the worry. But also the fact that appendix carry has gotten hugely popular with the Instagram crowd, so to speak. It's Instagram, it's YouTube, it's Facebook, it's everywhere. I can't carry that way. It's just uncomfortable as all get out for me. I've done a few videos of me doing some draws that way, and I'll carry there if it's something very brief. But I'm not an appendix. My donut does not allow appendix. But hey, if that's the way you want to carry your gun, go for it. I thought the laws or rules, so to speak, about, the hip bone thing was very, very prejudice.
It was arbitrary. There wasn't a reason for it.
Exactly. I mean, like you'll see in my videos, you're going to find my hip bone. That's going to be a very uncomfortable situation for both of us. So okay, well, we think it's here, Mr. Moneypenny. You need to move your gun back just a little bit. I'm like, oh god. And IDPA did the center of your body and the center of your pant pleat, and so the next thing you know, a bunch of guys show up with Vertex pants that don't have pleats. They're sewn in the front.
Right.
So it's a rule that people are going to push. So I think that was a good thing. There's a couple of naturally relaxed places your gun's going to go fast. That's where it's going to be. That's where the smart people are going to put it, and that's where the rest of the people that copy them are going to put it. And if you want to do it some other way, somehow else, that's fine. It's your choice to do so.
Okay.
So yeah, I like both of them, and I know that my local department, which I did kind of push 20320, I didn't mention a word to them about flashlights, and they all got flashlights on their guns. They carry 20-round mags too, which I think is kind of pointless. It's big. It's in the gun.
It's gigantic, right?
I'm cool with the backup thing, but I'm like, how do you guys get in the cruiser without? Oh, there's the dent out of the cruiser. Never mind.
Just gonna ruin the bolsters on the seats in the car, just real quick. So what is the single biggest rule change that has bugged you the most?
The relaxation in production. If we're doing production, it needs to say somewhat production. So what we've done is we've allowed the thumb rest. You can put whatever parts you want to on the gun, whether it looks like it came from the factory or not. Now everybody's started going, we need a thumb rest. You don't need a thumb rest. You may want a thumb rest, but you don't need it. There's a lot of people out there that I had some guy say, well, how do you feel about thumb rests? And I'm like, I don't really care. I don't use one. He's like, I'm left-handed. It's a disadvantage to me. Like, you got a point there. So that was the biggest thing that, we went all these years with them being able to disassemble your gun. So suddenly you can put any parts you want in your gun. And my 42-ounce gun, I can go up to 59 ounces with now, almost 60. And I feel that once you get past about 50 ounces, it becomes more of a boat anchor-ish problem than what it is. I don't know the correct answer of what we should have done. I don't think we can go back because of one of those cats out of the bag things. Getting it back in is going to be you have to be very trepidatious. You have to be careful how you do anything to bring that back, to not alienate people and negate the thousands of dollars they've spent on money to get, well, $1,000 of money they've spent to get the new parts and all these gadgets.
Got it. Yeah, I agree. They handled production pretty poorly, but I also understand why they did it. It was like a super arbitrary line in the sand. They were trying to simplify the rules, so kept simplifying, and the division just got more and more ridiculous. But
right,
what, if any, do you think is the biggest rule change that needs to happen that hasn't?
Oh goodness. I've been trying to stay away from rule changes. There's a lot of people out there that have a lot of opinions right now. They want to lower major. They want to make a single action carry optics division, stuff like that. I think one of the biggest things that we need to focus on right now is staying up with the power curve of what's going to happen. If it were me and I, was king for a day, I'd like to try some things. Like I'd like to try, seeing what it would be like if everybody that shot limited was in minor, because there are tons of 9mm guns out there. There's a lot of people that think it will behoove production to put 15 rounds in the magazines. I'm not sure if that would or not. So the answer to that is I don't think we need any massive changes right now. I can think of a lot of changes that would be interesting to see what it would do, but I'm not going to advocate any change without a ton of data being gathered first.
It's a nice political answer. That kind of,
well, so here's the thing. I hear a lot of guys say, hey, let's get rid of this division, that division. I've shot every division in USPSA. I've shot every division in 3-gun, and I'm working on my Club 13 for Steel Challenge. I enjoy those guns. I enjoy the different nuances that each division brings. If I was going to do anything, I think bringing back modified would be a very interesting place to start, but drop the 40 requirement. That would give everybody that's complaining a place to play. And if they want to play there, play there. If they don't. If you want, because basically modified was just open, stuck in a box. I don't know if you know what modified is or not.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of the guns. They look ridiculous.
A lot of our listeners didn't. Basically the same. What they did is they took the box that a production or standard gun would have to fit in, which standard is a limited gun in IPSC, and said, okay, you got to fit in this thing. Yeah, you can have a dot. Yeah, you can have comps. You can have a magwell. You can do whatever you want to, but it's got to fit in the box. Something along those lines, I think, would possibly appease a lot of the people that are asking for and no major minor in it. A lot of the people that are asking a lower major, and a lot of people that are wanting to force changes into other divisions. Here, just go play with this. But then the question comes out: do we have too many divisions? Is it going to kill something else? So many questions that come to it. So it's political, but I can give you that's my personal opinion, but I'm not going to do something that's going to hurt our sport if I can keep from it.
I'll throw one at you. This is my single one, and I'm going to push this until it actually happens. So it's going to be on most of the things. Make ready time limits. That's what needs to happen. We need to have a par time on make ready, because if you go to a major match, there are 12 squads all trying to go through it, and one guy thinks he needs 3 to 4 minutes from make ready to get ready to shoot. That one guy is single-handedly holding up the match and costing everyone a half hour or more of their life. And every other major sport has introduced provisions to keep the sport moving along faster. Baseball's done it. Golf's done it. Like, there's been a lot of stuff to make it more of an enjoyable experience for everybody else. And I think that a very, very simple one that would improve quality of life. Like, another time is people stop shooting matches in the South because it gets too damn hot. If we could keep the matches moving with like make ready time limits, we could, increase our shooter turnover quicker. And so all of a sudden shooting in a hot summer day is going to take, call it a half hour or less. So you're going to get out of the heat sooner. So I think that's what needs to happen. I would say that is a rule that needs to change now and just get comfortable with it.
What do you want to make it to?
I think 30 seconds to a minute is generous enough.
I think 1 minute would be enough that nobody would notice it, except for those like 10 guys that can't get off the pot, I guess.
But I mean, it's a real problem. I was at a match just this past weekend backing up to a squad where we watched the final 2 shooters on the squad shoot on every single stage because they had 2 guys on the squad who took an eternity to get ready. So
IPSC fixed that, right? I mean, they just said no sight pictures, load your gun and do it, and they also have I know there's a lot more. Is it 3 minutes you get on some of their stages for walkthrough time?
I don't know that walkthrough is the big problem, but I think having a consistent
some
time.
of the stuff that IPSC has done to that, and like I would definitely support that. Looking into it and getting the data, because I feel that that's going to be something that somewhere, again, most statistics rate up, so we'll say 87% of the shooters would go for it.
Most people wouldn't even notice it. And as far as like technology is concerned, like the timer companies would we got to replace all the club timers for something that's got 2 buttons, one for a minute par time and one for, the actual start the time thing. But
I don't even think you'd have to do that. Because actually most of them did a 1 minute par time. It wouldn't do anything anyway. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because most of our stages aren't a minute long in USPSA.
Yeah.
So I think there are so many. We have some amazing timers out there right now, and we have tablets for the majority of people that do that. I think it would be something that would be very interesting to see how it goes.
I think it's an easy thing we could do. It would be easy to get support for it, and it would be an immediate quality of life improvement for everybody else at the match, except for the people who whine about, they've got Max Michel takes a long time to get ready to shoot, so they got to take a long time to get ready to shoot too.
I'm a Max student. I know what he's doing during that time, and I know what I do during that time. And I also know that I shoot multi-gun. You get over about 30 seconds, they start telling you, "Are you ready?" And they just annoy some of them will just annoy you to death. "Are you ready?" "No." "Damn it. You gotta start over." "Are you ready?" "No."
Right.
But the things that are done on that. So what I did is, from the time that I'm the on-deck shooter, if I'm on deck, I'm not doing anything. And you shouldn't be doing anything as a shooter. Now, local matches, that's one thing where there's not enough of you. But at a level 2 or greater match, you should not be touching targets. You should not be pasting anything. You should not be painting anything, because that goes to competitive equity. If I'm up there and I paste the target right, or I halfway paste it or whatever, that could be a competitive advantage. So I'm off that stage, so nobody says that I screwed with the target or anything. I may walk up and look at it briefly, make sure there's not any holes and things that shouldn't have holes, or just make sure everything was reset. Because at this point, it costs a lot of money to reshoot something, especially like if you have a rifle stage. I ran a rifle stage at Multi-Gun Nationals, and that was a 40-ish round stage. So that was like $35 to shoot that stage, at the current price of ammo. So that's a major investment to me. I mean, considering we had, like 12 stages. So I think it's something that we should definitely look at. I can't hear you.
Fair enough. Sorry, I had it on mute for the cough button there. But yeah, that's a drum I'm going to continue to beat on until that comes into effect. I think that's an easy one that the board could knock out and make life better for everybody in us warm climates. So this is the last question. I did see one in the chat that I want to circle back on and throw at you, but this is kind of a fun one. Why are you a bad candidate, and why shouldn't people vote for you?
Oh, I'm a bad candidate because probably end up working too hard and trying to do too much stuff.
Standard interview answer. That's the standard answer.
So, what are my bad qualities? I'm pretty much straight up about everything. I like to procrastinate things. I have had to take direct intervention into myself to keep me from procrastinating, putting up deadlines on certain things. And my fiance, I don't want to call her a nag, but she is very good at it. And I'll say, hey, I need to do this. And then she will just keep reminding me until I do it. That's probably one of my biggest personality flaws. The other one is I'm a people person. I like to get out there, chat, and talk to people. So sometimes that takes up a little bit more time than what it should. Why shouldn't people vote for me? Because I'm not afraid to do things. And some of those things don't make me very popular. If things need done, we've had a lot of turmoil and trepidation with some individuals. We've got a couple of individuals that maybe should have been removed from the organization for cheating. I'm not going to mention their names, but we all know who they are at this point. If you don't believe, if you want to know who they are, you can go to USPSA Insights and their names and a number of things. I sometimes will do things fairly quickly and maybe a little bit more harshly than I should. I'm not going to be like Mike Foley and get in a distant argument with a guy in a parking lot, but I sometimes do react a little quicker than what I could. So I think everything in life is a struggle to grow and better yourself. And some of us have further to go than others.
Fair enough. This was a question that was thrown out in chat, and I'll throw it on the screen, from Bourbon Sherbert. I hope that's your real name. That's a great screen name. It's really fun to say out loud. Is there any possibility of bringing in both a marketing firm and an organizational firm to help grow the sport, as well as streamline the rules and scoring for viewing audience and media? And this we'll leave it on this because we're already over an hour, but it's kind of expanding on that question a little bit. Is you touched on it briefly of creating kind of a media company. I'm not suggesting necessarily changing the sport for it, but I understand the sentiment that is there. Like our media is effectively what we have on offer to find new people. And right now our media is garbage. So how do you feel about that?
I would definitely support that. And I don't want to sound like one of the guys or any of the other people that said I'm going to support it and not work towards it. Because I do think that the marketing part of it is something that I've already said I intend to do. If it's hiring an outside firm, then that's fine. Nothing. I don't mean this is bad, but and please, I hope he doesn't do it. Could you imagine Jake on a TikTok program? Sorry, Jake. It's a joke, but it's true.
I'd like to see it happen. He should do that. That would bring a lot of members
it
to
might be kind of funny. You might get mad at me saying it. It could be hilarious.
You should give it a solid 2-week run, Jake. Make it happen, buddy.
You could make $1 million off it. Never know. There's the craziest videos out there. Like Kenny Nagata's got like 2.5 million followers on TikTok. And I'll guarantee he can pull up a video, or it was a followers review. I think it was views on the one video that he did. Anyhow, millions of views, a lot of outreach. But I guarantee that I've tried to make TikTok videos, man, and I deleted them because they suck.
It's not easy.
There's some people out there but I've watched these kids do it at the range. And it's like they did that with like zero effort. So let's find somebody like them and figure out what the click is worth and pay them that. I feel that there are specific marketing firms that do things just for our industry that could be a great help. As for the organizational firm, I think that would be an amazing idea. I think to be able to streamline the jobs that we are doing would allow us to all be more efficient. And whether you're looking to be a GM shooter or whether you're looking to run an organization, the less extra crap you have to deal with and the more direct you can be, the better you're going to be and the more efficient, obviously. So that's what we strive for. And the shooting of the sport is being more efficient. So let's do something to do that. And hopefully it's not something that costs a huge amount of money. So if anybody wants to see that done, here's how we get that done. I can put it in an agenda if I'm president. So vote for me. But the other way of doing it is email your area directors, area, and then the number. So if it's area one at USPSA.org, and say, hey, I think it'd be a great idea if you guys hired an outside organizational firm to take a look at the organization of the company. I don't know if this should be done before or after we get a managing director. Is that what they're calling it? I think it is. Basically a director for that.
Steve, it's been a lot of fun hearing what makes you tick and what your views on this are. Sorry if the questions came across as a little crazy, but like I mentioned at the beginning of the thing, these were going to be kind of some job interview type questions rather than just kind of your standard, like, why should we kill limited 10 and why not? This type stuff. But I think you did fine. I appreciate your time and I wish you the best of luck with it. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. And I don't mind difficult questions at all. Sometimes they make you think and give you a level of introspection you wouldn't have before. I greatly appreciate you having me, and hopefully we can talk again in the future.
Sounds good. If people want to learn more about you, how can they do that?
The easiest way is go to stevemoneypenny.com, and that's basically a link tree, something from other industries that I brought into my presidency. So you can click on that and get to just about all of my social media. My email is steve@stevemoneypenny.com, and my cell phone number is 304-266-13.
Brave man.
I've put it out there before. I love to talk to shooters. I like to talk about shooting. I got to drive all day tomorrow and part of the day Friday. So if there's something you want to talk about or you want to get to know your candidate, message me, email me, call me, do whatever, and I will get back with you.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, Steve. And with that, we are done.